Oh, there you are. Was the lane muddy? I thought I heard the head shaking earlier. Figured it might be you. Come in. Come in. Here, let me move this. Have you eaten yet? No? Well, that's all right. The kettle's just starting to murmur, and I have a bit of bread left from this morning. There's a story today. A quiet one. Or maybe not quiet exactly. You ever heard something that wasn't really a sound? Like the hush just before a memory comes back? Yeah? You have. That's how this begins this time. Not with a letter, not with the lantern. Just a note. Just one. Drifting up from the floorboards, like a breath someone forgot they were holding. Have you ever felt a floor remember something? No. Well, maybe you will by the end of this. Go on then, find your spot. I'll start when you're settled. Summer mornings in Willowmere had a way of arriving sideways. Not all at once, and not with fanfare, just a slow golden exhale of light spilling through the willows and warming the cobbles one at a time. Bees stitched lazy loops above the lavender. Somewhere a wooden gate creaked open and closed again. The village moved slowly in summer, as though trying not to disturb the hush that made the season feel so sacred. Inside the Lanternkeeper's cottage, the air was cool, touched by the breath of stone and old wood. The windows were open, but the curtains hadn't stirred. The whisper light above the sink still slumbered. Its flame curled like a cat in a shaft of amber light. The Lanternkeeper moved slowly, their wool-wrapped feet brushing along the smoothed paths of the floor, the roots worn by memory and repetition. Tea was brewing on the hearth. A braid of rush hung drying from the beam above it, swaying just slightly as though it remembered being woven. They crossed the room toward the table, passing the corner where the sampler now sat, flat and reverent, its stitches softly catching the light. The notebook beside it held the faint shape of a new map, not of place, but of signs. A lantern, a braid, a sprig of rosemary, a stitched phrase, the name Marin, no longer a mystery, but a thread being followed home. And then, near the west wall, beneath the window where the bees liked to gather, they paused. Their foot had landed in the slight dip of the floor, the one they'd known forever. It had always been there. But this morning, something was different. They stood still and listened. At first, they heard nothing, only the faint hiss of water in the kettle, the rustle of paper from the windowsill, and then a hum. Not from outside, not from the air, but from beneath. It was not the sound made by a voice or wind. It was a note. Just one, low and half-formed, as though someone had sung the first part of a lullaby, but forgotten the rest. The Lanternkeeper dropped into a crouch and pressed one ear to the floorboards. The wood was warm from the morning sun, a little uneven. They closed their eyes, held their breath, and there it was again. A phrase of music, soft, unfinished. Like a song remembered just enough to ache. They stayed there a long while. Long enough for the kettle to quiet itself and begin to cool. Long enough for the room to feel as though it, too, were listening. Then, slowly, they rose. Not in a rush, not with fear, but with the reverence of someone answering a call they hadn't realized they'd been waiting for. They moved toward the bookshelf in the corner, the one nearest the hearth. Not for the journals or ledgers, not for the herb guides, but for the small wooden chest at the bottom, the one that didn't match any of the others. It had a crack in the lid and a drawer that stuck on the left. Inside were the sorts of things that gather over generations. Bits of ribbon, a chipped button, shaped like a star, a broken spool of green thread. They didn't know what they were looking for, but they knew something was there. And near the bottom, caught between an old rush-weaving pattern and a pressed pansy, a piece of music. A torn page, slightly curled, yellowed with age. 4 bars, handwritten in careful script, and beside them, in the lower corner, for the circle, when it begins to wake, signed M.E.R. They sat down, hard on the floor. Marin. The initials weren't even necessary anymore. The presence of her, gentle and guiding, was stitched into everything now. Into thread, into light, into the hush behind the floorboards. The Lanternkeeper ran their fingers over the ink. It hadn't been there by accident. And though they didn't remember placing it in the chest, they didn't feel surprised. That was the way of certain kinds of remembering. Not revelation, but return. Later that morning, with the page carefully tucked into their notebook, they wrapped their shawl across their shoulders and stepped outside. The day had warmed, a gentle kind of warmth, thick with honey and the echo of distant birdsong. The path to the market green was shaded by overhanging vines and crumbling stone walls, tufted with chamomile. They passed 2 villagers in quiet conversation, a child pulling a string of daisies behind them, like a kite tail. The world felt normal, familiar. But the Lanternkeeper felt different, like something in them had turned slightly, faced a new direction, or perhaps an older one. At the rush weaver's corner, Lisbeth was already seated. She always arrived early, in the warmer months, before the sun tipped too high and the bees grew restless. She had her basket in her lap and a bundle of thread across her knees. She looked up when the Lanternkeeper approached, smiled, but faintly, and said, "I think I was expecting you." The Lanternkeeper didn't explain. They only offered the folded music page. Lisbeth took it carefully, smoothing the creases with her palm. Her eyes scanned the bars. And then she nodded, once, slowly. "My gran sang this," she whispered. "Not often, only in the middle of storms." She looked up, distant and clear-eyed. She said it kept the house remembering itself. She set the paper aside and reached into her basket, pulled out a braid. 7 strands, pale green thread, a sprig of rosemary at the tail, bound with an old pin. "I didn't mean to make it," she said. "Didn't even choose the colors. My hands just remembered it." She passed it to the Lanternkeeper. "I think it's meant to return to you now." They carried it home carefully, cradled like something alive. Inside the cottage, the light had changed. It moved differently across the floor, like water, like music. The samplers still lay open. The notebook, the letters. Now the braid was laid beside them. A new point on the map, not drawn, but left. They took up the lantern from the windowsill, the one that had once rested at Marin's door. It's warm again, just a little. They opened the back seam, reverently, not with the intention to fix or polish, just to place the braid inside. It slid in easily, the rosemary bristled faintly against the glass. A soft shh escaped on the breath of the leaves, like a memory settling into its shape. That night, the Lanternkeeper didn't light a single flame, but the whisper light in the corner flickered just the same. The wind chime above the door stirred, yet there was no wind. And from beneath the floorboards, a sound, not loud, not complete, but whole enough to recognize. The tune had returned, not in full, but with confidence, as if someone somewhere had begun to hum it again. And in a cottage across the village, old Wren lifted her head mid-sip of tea, set her cup down, and began, without quite realizing, to hum along. Well then, did you hear it too? Yes, that little hum beneath the quiet. Sometimes I think the old floorboards know more than they let on. You ever get that feeling? Like the room is holding its breath, just waiting for you to remember something. It's funny, isn't it? How a tune can find its way back, even if no one's been singing it. Maybe memory isn't just what we carry in our minds. Maybe it's tucked into the thread and paper and wood grain, waiting for someone to listen long enough. What was that? Oh, no. No need to get up yet. The light's still soft and the kettle's still warm. But if you do have to go, take this with you. If something hums beneath your feet, don't be too quick to step past it. It might be a song. It might be a story. And it might just be meant for you. All right. Okay. Yes. Okay. Until next time, my dear. We'll keep the seat warm for you.